For those of us joining online, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes.
Over here and she's like, I want this one. I was like, you know, don't you? She's like, yeah, we want to drop. Okay. Because we have your names under the camera. So you're on the right side of the screen.
Check. 3, 2.
excited to welcome you to the Bari Diaries and Bari Nation podcast event. My name is Whitney Adams, or you may know me as Adam Perfect Progress. And this is my friend Nikki.
I'm Nikki Stryjak, and you know me as Modern Mom VSG.
We are so excited you guys are here, and we're excited to be able to celebrate this night with you guys together in this room. I know a lot of you that we met coming in the doors. This is the first event you've ever been to, and we're so excited to meet you. We also wanted to welcome you and thank our sponsors tonight. We have quite a few amazing sponsors. So Termino Protein Infused Water, Celebrate Vitamins, Devotion Nutrition, Chalk Zero, Bariatric Fusion, Dive Bar Nutrition, American Dream Nut Butter, Real Good Foods, and our premier sponsor is ProCare Health Bariatric Vitamins and Supplements.
And thank you so much, ProCare, for sponsoring this event. We wanted to invite Madison Hain up to say a few words. Madison?
Come on, Madison!
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if this mic is working. Okay. Oh, it was. Well, as she said, my name's Madison, and I'm with ProCare Health Bariatric Multivitamin Company. And a little bit about us. So all of our products follow the ASMBS guidelines and are third-party tested for efficiency. And we also feel free to stop by my booth over there. So we have 15% off coupon for all of you guys tonight, and other stuff around the tables. So those are our calcium chews around there. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you guys. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Thank you, ProCare Health. And if you would like to also support Bari Diaries podcast, go to patreon.com, Bari Diaries, and visit their website for more information at baridiaries.com.
Yes. All right.
You guys ready for the live event?
Are you ready for the live event?
Ready?
You guys excited? Well, I feel completely excited and honored because I'd like to welcome to the stage some of my really great friends. So Jason Smith and Natalie Tierney.
We're also going to invite up our inspirational story tonight, Miss April Williams, one of the co-founders of Bari Nation. Woo!
And now the host of Bari Diaries, Cece.
I'm getting there. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited to have everybody here. We need a time out to have a reboot, so like a song to kind of get everybody's nerves relaxed. Can you put us a song?
Thank you.
Sorry. Can you play us a song? I want everybody to get up. Let's get out of our chairs and just have a moment to let it all go and relax. Yeah, the vibe.
I mean,
yeah.
This is a party, my friends.
This is a party.
This
We're
is a
gonna have
party.
meet and greet afterwards. We're going to be dancing.
Right? This is the first time so many of us have met each other in person. This is when we are living our best lives, my friends. Dude, let's do it! Woo!
Sorry, I forgot. Ready? Come on, Jason. Jason, come on.
You get the head bob from Jason.
Everybody dance. Let it out. Let it out. There you go. There you go.
I like how you literally called him out.
Relax. Oh, there you go. All right. Good job. great story for y'all tonight. Thank y'all for coming. I'm so excited. April, it's all about you, April.
Oh, yeah. No,
That's her favorite. She loves it to be all about her. It's her most
The queen,
favorite thing.
really.
You guys will be super excited. She just loves it. The spotlight just on her is her favorite.
So if you guys don't know, I flip Jason off probably every podcast episode.
And meetings. It's not just the podcast. It's meetings too. Private
Can
Zooms
confirm.
Together. It doesn't FaceTime. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Can I preface this? I'm going to swear a lot.
Please.
Yeah,
Probably going to be at you and Nat.
that's right. Well, we
It's
gotta
real.
start off every episode with stats. I know it's what drives us as pre-ops and young post-ops is those numbers, and I think everybody wants to hear that because it's so inspirational. And it was for me.
Totally. So I started my journey at 326 pounds. I have been obese, as you guys will see, for my entire life. And I was very ashamed by that weight. But the crazy thing is that I accomplished my greatest feats to date. Well, I mean, not to date, but yeah. I mean, I did a lot of really amazing things at my high weight. So my weight didn't define me, but my weight, I think, limited me in some ways. And I'm very excited to have my full capacity finally available to do the things that I want to do in life.
That's right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So your surgery weight was what?
326.
And your current weight?
Ooh, that's a tricky one because my scale. So I'm going to go, so the last time I stepped on my scale was 208. Sometimes I see 218. Sometimes I see 205. But 208, that's the happy weight.
Oh man, I see.
Can we get a round of applause?
Yeah.
And I would love to preface this because I feel passionate about this. If you are worried, and you're a female, that you will always be plus size, it doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not the size of our pants or our tops. It is our metabolic wellness. It's how we feel. It's how we present to the world. It's how we show up. And that number on the scale or that number on my pants does not define my success.
That's right.
So when I go to my check-ins, when I meet with my doctors, we talk about this often on our platform and on our podcast. It's not about the size. It's about metabolic wellness. So when I go in, am I metabolically well? And if I'm metabolically well at 208, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, it also doesn't matter what store you're shopping in. Does not matter. You can look at it any way you want to. Just because you may be still going to a big and tall plus size, whatever it may be, I mean, it's the same as the scale. It's the same as everything else. None of that, it doesn't define who you are. Just as your size didn't define who you are, it's never going to. Just because your scale may be a habitual line stepper like most of ours is and likes to tell us lies, that's
Habitual.
okay.
She's a
habitual line
moody,
stepper, and that's
yeah.
okay. You know, you can
Can't
break
make
up
up
with
her
your
mind.
scale. I broke up with my scale. I don't even know where my scale is right now. It's in timeout. That's what I do know. And it just may not get to come back.
Well, let's start from your younger years. Tell us all about April from when you were a little girl, and we want to hear it all, don't we? I do.
So Cece and Natalie and Jason know, I don't tend to share my story often because I just feel like my story is a part of the collective and it doesn't need to be individualized, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to share it. So this will probably be the first time that many people, maybe including my husband, who's here tonight, will hear some of this. I know.
Grady, give it up for Grady.
We love
Grady,
it,
everybody.
So the picture that you're looking at here, this is my dad. His name is Doug, and that's me sitting at his feet. And my dad is an avid fisherman, and my family has owned a piece of property on a lake here in Washington for a very long time. So I don't know if you guys have parents that were born to be parents. Yeah, my parents were born to be parents. That's the only thing that they absolutely know how to do. So when I was born, I was supposed to be named Rachel, and I popped out, and my dad was in these scrubs that he busted in the back because he was too big to fit in them. And I popped out, and he goes, "Oh my God, she looks like me." My mom was like, duh. And she looks like an April. So I was named April, and because I was born in April. But from that moment, I was very close with my parents, and they have just been very like involved on a cellular level. If that makes sense. But yeah, so this was it's like my happy place. It's a place where I really got to be myself. I didn't have to worry about what I was wearing or what I was doing or what I was saying. This was a place that I could just be myself.
Just be free.
Yeah, and there was a lot of there was a lot of moments in my life where I didn't feel like who I was accepted, even though my family was very accepting. I'm just very different, and we'll kind of go through that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Oh!
Look at those bangs.
Bangs! Bangs for days. So this is myself and my sister. My sister's name is Maria. And if you guys see, my sister, she's like picking at her hands. This is like what she did, like forever. But I grew up very close with Maria. I kind of felt like her protector, even though I wasn't. Like, Maria needs no protection. If you guys know Maria, she don't need nothing. No, she don't need nothing. But I felt like I needed to take her under my wing. But what I very much knew from a very early age is that you guys can see, my face is rounder. I was just a bit of a bigger human. Mm-hmm. And so I knew from a very young age that I was structured differently.
No, I got it, yeah.
Right? And it was like, okay. Like, nobody called me out on it. Nobody said anything about it. But it was like, okay, I'm different than this person who should be just like me. But it didn't really make a difference. But I think we all know, like, there's just something in the back of your head that's like, oh, I'm different.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one word, one sentence, something is not the same. So this is really when I kind of started to understand something is different.
Did you have a moment that you could remember where maybe you had that thought?
Oh, it's like you read my mind.
It's like we work together.
It's like we work together. It's like we're friends. Weird. Yeah, there was a moment. So.
Relatable.
Relatable. This was at some party. If you guys know me, my family is into parties. This is what we do. We party. Party. We built a house to party. So this was some event, and I remember at this very young age, I was always hungry. And I would go back for more food, and my parents and my grandparents would ask me, like, "Oh, are you still hungry? That's weird." Is it? But like, I'm hungry. Like, something is not, I'm not full, I'm not, right? So at that moment, I realized, like, oh, okay, something is different. And at a very young age, I just knew that. And it wasn't, like I said, a bad thing or a good thing. It was just, something is not right.
Well, it also comes from them not calling attention to it in a negative way. It was more of oh, you're still hungry, instead of, why are you still eating? Like, there was lots of different ways that could have been brought to your attention. Yeah. But it was brought to you in such a way because, as you said, your parents were very nurturing in that way, so you didn't have to deal with it on that level.
No. Yeah. And they were it was never a negative thing. It was just like, oh, that's interesting, or that's different. You are still hungry. Why is that? And as a child, you don't understand why that's different or why that's, not the same as everybody else. So it was just that moment of like, oh, something's different. Yeah. Yeah. I think the next picture is one of my favorites. Yes. So this is my preschool picture, and I am in the front row in this Superman pajama outfit. That is me. And right next to me is one of my best friends to this day. Her name is Julie. But I never was a girly girl. Never. I played with He-Man, with Superman. I mean, like, we would be gifted Barbies, and we would rip their heads off and drown them in our Barbie pool. That was what we did.
She slept with Skeletor under.
I did.
Inside her coat.
Wait,
That was covered. Oh, you got the picture on there?
I think so. This
Bam.
one, yeah.
Bam. Covered in a He-Man blanket. Or I mean a Superman blanket, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so adorable.
But she was good enough to separate, the He-Man and Skeletor.
Yes, and I would like to draw attention to they're equally tucked in, right? So they all have their blanket with the Superman, cape. So, but yeah, I mean, this was a picture that my parents took because they thought it was adorable and it was me. But this definitely highlights like what little girl sleeps with He-Man, Skeletor, and Clark Kent in their bed. It was me, and it was very odd.
The one who can rock those bangs even in her sleep.
Yeah.
That's her. That's who sleeps with all of that.
That's so adorable.
Yeah, so that was me. And, kudos to my parents who never made me feel bad or awkward for liking something that wasn't maybe, assigned to my gender. Mm-hmm. They definitely like, oh, that's interesting that you want to watch the A-Team and not My Little Ponies, or, right, like these are the pajamas that I want. These are the heroes that I look up to. These are the, oops, sorry, I'm going way too forward. Right? But like, that was me. It was, like just everything felt weird and every girly thing felt weird. And, I always felt like I was different than everybody else. And I made some very close friendships, but at the same time, you just knew like, something is different.
There was a difference
There was a difference.
between them and you.
Yeah. And even between my sister and I, we were very close, but yet my sister loved dolls and, those things. And I wanted to watch the A-Team and, play with my He-Man sword. So
Because the A-Team rocks, that's why.
I mean, they shot like 10,000 rounds and never killed a single person. So
Yeah. Worst aim in history
Worst aim.
to be as military as they were. The worst aim in history.
Worst aim in
However,
history.
they had the coolest van and the coolest haircut.
they did the coolest van. So the most hilarious story, my mother was mortified, but at the same time was like, this is just who my daughter is. We were at the grocery store and an African-American man walked up the aisle and he was wearing chains and I ran up to him and I hugged him and I said, Mr. T, Mr. T. I was so excited because I thought he was Mr. T because I absolutely loved him and that show and I was just enamored with it. And my poor mother was just mortified, but yeah, so yeah. Yep, so that was me in preschool. Just adorbs. This is me on my 10th birthday at the top of the Space Needle. You can tell I was not thrilled.
Very unimpressed to be 10.
Very unimpressed. My mother made me wear a dress I did not like, and cardigan, the whole thing. The only way that they made up for it is that they allowed me to wear, I forgot. So there's sunglasses. There's me in like some pretty awesome, like, remember the Boz? Yeah, like those big, huge Oakleys, like the whole face. Yeah, I got those for my birthday, and I was very, very excited. Very excited.
Looking like you had some ski goggles on.
Pretty much, yeah. That was what it was. So, yeah, but I mean, I was always rounder. I was always bigger. I was always different. So this was, again, I think this was my 13th birthday. So you can see my sister on the very end in the purple and pink striped shirt. Like I said, I'm very close with my sister, and I never wanted to not include her, so she was always a part of whatever we did. The girl next to her with like a, oh my gosh face is Julie. Julie was a friend I met in preschool. Julie actually taught me how to walk. Then, of course, it's me at the head of the table, a friend from school, her name was Christy. And then at the very end, Callie, one of my lifelong friends. But this was kind of a traditional birthday celebration. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't feel comfortable with a lot of people. And when I found my people, I just tended to kind of keep them because I didn't want to answer any questions about anything. I just wanted to be safe. So these were my people. And as you can tell, the 80s were strong. We had a strong connection with the 80s and early 90s, but yeah. But I also remember at the celebration, it was like...
Do you have any traumatic experiences that was the catalyst for the?
No,
the
at this
obesity
time, no. So I grew up with a father who struggles with alcoholism, and it was interesting because some things would happen and we would just chalk them up to like, oh, well, this is just like how our family reacts. And then there were some other events where there were just very odd things that would happen and very odd conversations that would happen. So at this stage of my life, it was just like, well, this is just how all families are. I didn't realize it was different until I was older. But the really interesting thing is that, you know, we always kind of defaulted to Euro Williams. This is how we do it. This is just how life is. You need to present this way. You need to kind of act this way. And no matter what turmoil is going on behind the scenes, this is how we present. This is what we do. So my sister and I got really good with that until we got to the point, thanks to therapy and, you know, just family and having conversations, that you realize, oh, we can do things differently. But at this point in my life, no, I mean, my parents' business was becoming very successful. We just moved into this like giant house. We thought, I mean, it was a big house. They were really kind of on the up and up, like things were looking up. And this was also the stage in life when I realized people wanted to be friends with me because of what I had and not because of who I was. So it was a transition that really took me a very long time to move through, I guess.
Well, it also helps that you had such a strong core group of friends already, so you knew who was there for the right reasons versus who was trying to come in for something different.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in this picture, I mean, my sister is like my rock solid. I mean, there's nobody else. Maria's number one. And then Julie and Callie are, you know, like ride and dies. And what I've really understood as I moved through this bariatric journey is I've been very blessed with some very close friends. I didn't realize that most people don't have these types of connections. I have so many people that I can call 24/7 that are, you know, there for me. You know, there's nothing that they would not do. And now that I'm kind of on the other side of bariatric surgery and getting to know more people, I'm so thankful for the connections that I had before, because despite my size, despite my shape, I had a huge social circle that I could rely on. Yeah, and you know, 3 of those people are in this picture, and that was, oh my God, like 25 years ago, or, you know, like.
You didn't have to date yourself.
The bangs did it for her. As did that sick polo that
Ouch.
my sister's wearing.
The bangs.
The bangs. It's always the bangs. Yep. So this is a picture of, well, I mean, it's kind of convoluted, but it's my cousin and her new husband, Marion and Martin. We were in Germany. This was 1995. And I remembered this was the first time that I could not buy clothing at a traditional store.
Wait, which one's you? I can't even tell which one's
I'm
you.
on the very end. So I'm in like the pink top and the floor. Well, I guess Maria's the same thing too. Shocking. Yeah, so I'm on the far right with kind of the longer hair.
Yeah.
Yep. Next to the groom. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Yes.
And
Yes.
you couldn't find the clothes, you said?
Nope, I couldn't. No. So this was purchased in like the women's section, and I was 15.
But y'all look the same. There was no difference. I don't know why your perception of yourself was totally different.
Yeah, it was the sizing. Like
Yeah.
I whatever my sister bought, I couldn't fit into. And it was a bit of like a panic moment because it was like, oh, wow, we need to find clothes for this. You know, we're
Yeah.
flying to Germany to go to this wedding and, oh, you can't, right? So it was a bit of like a situation. But that was the first time that I realized I was larger than most people. This was also the time that a fireman absconded with me in a closet and we made out in Germany. So
Ooh. Hey, the good with the bad, you gotta have
the good with the bad, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you, Alois. Check on that.
So,
Yeah.
April, I have a question. Do you remember how you felt that day when you were in the dressing room and you couldn't find something that fit you?
You know, I don't remember that, but I do remember this, which is odd. right? I think I was just so like over it. I hated shopping. There was no point to it. I don't care. Like, you know, I wear Umbra and Adidas shorts to school, so why do I need to buy a dress? But I do remember this moment. And being in Germany, it's a very different culture. You know, everything is different. But at the same time, we were also exotic. Like, I have dark hair. Everybody there had blonde hair. I was the foreigner. I had come from the United States. Everybody was like, oh my God, you know, like, so it was kind of a moment. And then at the same time, you're like, oh, but I also can't fit into regular clothes, but then this guy wants to make out with me in the closet, so I'm confused.
Like it landed you a firefighter, so I mean, how bad could it have been?
Right? I mean, it really wasn't, yeah. I mean, it was like a catch-22 moment.
Yeah, but I mean, at 15, the hard part about that is at 15 years old, that's a very impressionable age that you want to start dressing like, I mean, you need to dress like your friends, you need to fit in, you need to feel accepted, you need, and you know, that definitely wasn't happening in the women's section of any department store, because then you came out dressing more like your mom than you did your friends.
Bingo. I mean, like it's like a suit, basically. I mean, I was like,
oh, that's a Hillary Clinton power suit. Okay. You were rocking it.
Right?
You were running for office.
I was. Yes. I was running for office.
Hillary who?
Yeah.
I get it.
Please vote for me. The primary is coming up soon.
April 2024.
Yeah.
April 2024. She's
Right?
mad at me for saying that.
Oh, Germany. So this is a picture. We were at my great-grandparents' home in West Seattle. This was the last time that I could fit into Gap clothing. Right? Yeah.
We've all been
Did they
there.
stop making different sizes, or what was it?
They, at the time, did not offer, like, plus-size clothing. So I was in a size 16 jean, which is bullshit. That was not a 16. That was probably like a 12.
Yeah.
And the vest, remember when the vests were in? Yeah. Yeah, they were awesome. Well, yeah. Blossom. Yes!
Oh, yeah.
Blossom.
I
Yep.
remember that, yeah.
Yep. I mean, I had the Doc Martens. It was like, it was going. But I
Girl, you were
realized.
styling.
Yeah, I was styling, yes. But this was the last time. And we had just gotten back from Germany. And I was like living the high life because I'd made out with the German fireman in a closet.
Hell
That
yeah.
apparently is
Riding
like the
high.
Hell
pinnacle
yeah.
of life.
I know.
Yeah. And then I put these
It's as
clothes
good
on.
as you can get right there.
As good, yep, as good as I can get.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So, and my aunt, who is an adorable human, right, never cared, but this was the moment that I was like, oh, okay, things are not good.
So when did food become like this
Thing.
person in your life that was just, you couldn't
Yeah.
stop?
At this point. So at this point, I was diagnosed with some like digestional tract issues. I was having a lot of issues, medical issues, and I went to a naturopath. It was wonderful. He was excellent, and he put me on a very restrictive diet. So I started this Candida diet, and I also started swimming at the high school level. So I dropped a bunch of weight. Things were great. But as you can see, this is my closest friend in high school. Her name was Nicole, and her boyfriend, Kevin. And that was me with Thomas. And Nicole was a tiny human. But I remember thinking at the time, that was the only dress that I could buy off the rack at Macy's because none of the rest of them fit. And I remember having to like try to find a different bra, having to try to find different undergarments. Like everything was not in the teen section or the, I don't even know what it's called at the time. But it was it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I get to go to a dance, but this is challenging.
You kind of get into a panicked state.
Yes.
I don't know if that's how you felt, but
Yes.
that's how I felt.
Yes. Well, and the backstory to this picture is I was dating a gentleman at the
Which, by the way,
time.
he's pretty cute.
Oh, yeah, he was adorable.
If I had to pick, I'd pick him and not the other one.
Oh, yeah,
So
no,
he's-
yeah. Thomas
Sorry,
was
Grady.
You're not the other one she was referring to. Just
Oh, shoot, sorry about oh, yep, there you go.
Thomas was adorable, but at the time I was dating a man, who shall not be named, and it was awful. It was it was not Grady. Promise you, it was not Grady.
It was not Grady.
Yeah.
This was the stand-in. This was his last-minute substitute, but he stepped in
Yeah.
like a champ, and he
was.
took it on the chin. I know. I'm aware.
Right? So my boyfriend at the time had been arrested and was in jail. And if you know my parents, this was like, oh my God.
He still went to prom. He just went to a different kind. He was still a date for somebody.
He had that last dance in jail. Yeah. So his friend Thomas stepped in and became the man of the hour and took me to homecoming, and I had a fabulous time. And I was
pretty sweet. That's
yeah.
good.
I mean, I was close with Thomas. We were good
Yeah.
friends, but
Yeah.
I just remember thinking like, oh, this cannot be good. This is just not like nothing about this evening is what I had envisioned, and yeah. So when you look at those pictures, like I look at this picture now and it's like, oh my God, if I could have those arms, if I could like look like that would be amazing. But
Well, if you look at your hand, that's the biggest telling part of the whole thing.
Yeah, why are you holding your stomach?
yeah, because I thought I was fat. Yeah, because I thought I had to hide. And the fact that that's a sleeveless dress, it's only because I was swimming like 8 hours a day at the varsity level that I felt that I could do that. So, yeah.
It's amazing that you were so beautiful and yet you felt so unworthy.
And I think we all feel that way.
Yeah.
Right? We all look
We
back
all
on
have those
pictures.
moments, for sure.
We all have the
We all got a picture we can find, and
yes.
this is the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But when I look at this picture and I think about the turmoil that I was experiencing in my teenage life, to just be like, okay, whatever, Pete, you're in jail. Oh, damn it. He
You said it.
Now you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now he's gonna
that
come
out.
back. Eye candy's coming back.
Oh God. Oh,
You're gonna see the Porsche on the way home.
I hate you. I hate you. I really hate you at this point. Yeah. But but when you're a teenager, you think like that's the world.
It took 100 episodes, but she's done at this point.
I mean, she's had it in there boiling for a while. It's only fair that it finally makes its way to the top.
Yeah. I mean, it was traumatic. It's not like, a lot of people experience very different trauma. This was trauma, thinking that I'm never good enough, thinking I'm never going to find somebody who would want to date, let alone like start a life with and marry. And then, right, that happens with him and somebody else has to step in because, it's like, oh my God, this is just not good. Not good. So, yeah.
That was a pretty dress. I like it.
Yeah, I liked it too. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Nice coloring. Yeah. This is my sister and I in Hawaii, and I think it was like 2001, and you can definitely see my face is getting rounder. So I had started college. I was not at home. I didn't have anybody kind of like managing what I was eating. It was late night, a lot of drinking, around new friends, making, just everything was new. And I just kind of went off the rails, definitely. With
Do you have anybody like verbally, just abusive to you, that kind of progressed and progressed and progressed, that kind of went along with it?
Yeah, in college, I was still dating the same person, and and he would give me a bad time because I was gaining weight. So his reason for being unfaithful in our relationship was that I was gaining weight and he didn't find me attractive, so he had to go outside of our relationship. And I put up with that for 2 years or more, a very long time. Because, in those types of relationships, they tell you, well, you can't do any better. You look this way. Nobody's going to be attracted to you. You have no value beyond what you look like.
Yeah.
And when you're just living that relationship every single day.
That roller coaster of,
Yeah.
I'm unworthy, I eat.
Yes.
I'm unworthy, I eat. I'm unworthy, I eat.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and it just got to me. And it's crazy when I think about it because I'm a pretty strong person. I know what I'm worth, and I've grown from that. But in this moment, there's no other.
You're defeated.
Yep. Yeah, there's no other. This is the only option. This is how you will get through life. Yeah. Thank you.
Screw Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw Peter, not in a good way.
Yeah.
Fucking Peter. Fucking Peter.
Not the fun kind.
Not the fun kind. No, not the fun kind.
Oh, God.
Yep. So this was me probably at 21 or 22. You can tell I'm gaining a lot of weight, right?
Not a genuine smile.
Not a genuine smile. I'm just,
You're unhappy.
I'm just getting through, right? I'm getting through. And the really interesting thing about my journey, and the thing that I think I'm most excited or proud about, is that despite what was happening on the outside, I was committed to being the best person that I could on the inside. And we talk about this often, right? Like, okay, if I'm the fat person, I'm also going to be the funny, the smart, the dedicated. And when I got to college, it was really easy for me. I didn't have to do a lot of study. I mean, I skipped a final and passed a class. I don't know how that happens, but I did it. Totally did it. And you just think, well, I have to be better than my size or my shape. So I worked very hard. I accomplished a lot, and I just kept moving through life thinking that I had to be better than everybody else. And I worked harder, and I accomplished more, and I did all of the things. But in the end, I mean, good things happen, but at the same time, you're just not happy.
You feel like you have to overcompensate.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Wow.
Right? Oh, totally.
Same wavelength.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think like,
We're in a groove, got a groove.
yes, yes, right?
Except you, Jason, you were out on that one. You missed it.
Well, I mean, you did things.
So
just
close.
So close.
Yeah, just
It's coming up just a little short.
So this is a picture of my dad and I, and my sister at probably my sister's birthday. She was born in December, but you can see I've gained a lot of weight. So now I'm shopping at Lane Bryant or like Old Navy. Remember when the Old Navy got into the plus size and it was like, oh my God, like finally. Yeah, it was a huge deal, huge deal. Yep. So, yep, this was Christmas time. But again, you can tell I'm not super thrilled. I'm not super happy, but it's life. I just have to keep.
But it's so crazy how we all have those pictures that started everything. But now that we look back at them and you say, this was the age that I hated myself. Like that started whatever it was, food addiction, before whatever happened. But now that you look at it, you're like, damn, I looked really good in that picture. What the hell was wrong with me, right? Like, that's how I feel. Like, we all have those pictures.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting as I'm watching all of these pictures fly by, I can see you in there, but then you also look so foreign because you're masking. It's like I can see April's in there,
Yeah.
but I don't recognize her.
Oh, yeah, the growth between what you see now before you and what you see in those pictures is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's phenomenal. The fact that you were able to take all of those things like you did, not only turn them into the positives that you did, come out a completely new person as a whole, but also have enough left in your tank to help as many people as you've helped.
Yeah.
It's, and I think we all know that like that person is inside of us and that weight just keeps it down for whatever reason.
She's there, yeah.
Right? Like everybody's there. It's just the weight just keeps so much down. And when you start to lose it, just your capacity increases, your ability, just everything. It's just like the fog is lifted. And I always felt that, that wasn't me, but I just didn't have the tool to go beyond that. And I'm very proud of what I accomplished before bariatric surgery. And I'm just as proud as what I have accomplished after. But it's just a very different way of living life. And I'm thankful that I get to live life now on this side of it instead of that. Because my life would have been just as wonderful. I mean, I met my husband at a very high weight. I did so many things, academic and professional. And, I started my own bit. Like all these things I did at a very high weight. But I just wonder what it would have been like doing those things at the weight that I am now. Not because of how I look, but because of the energy that I could have brought to those endeavors. It would have been different.
But I think the thing that we have to remember, and I know that we talk about this a lot in the bariatric community, and we have to acknowledge and honor that person.
Yeah.
And we are proud of her, right? She did all those amazing things, and we're proud of you now.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the journey of weight loss surgery, is just being able to see the difference, but also be just as proud on either side. And if you would have done this before, it would not have been your time.
That I do agree with. Yeah, so the first person who actually ever brought up bariatric surgery to me was Grady. We were just like in a random conversation laying on the couch. We were probably talking about like what next diet cleanse we were gonna do, like who knows what, right? Like you're sitting around, you're like, I'm not happy, and well, we need to do something together. And I remember he just looked at me and he was like, what about bariatric surgery? And I was like, oh, listen here, motherfucker. No.
Way to go.
Oh, you gonna get that word out your mouth.
Way to go, Peter 2.0.
Yeah. 2.0. Mm-hmm. but it was so kind. It was so genuine. It was so soft. It was just very, and at this point, I don't know if we were married or not. Grady moved in on our second date. So, I mean, like, it's that kind of thing.
You were married.
We were married. Yeah, we were basically married from date number 2. And, he was just like, hey, what about bariatric surgery? As simple as that. And it was like, oh, but that was the first time that somebody had been like, well,
Brought it
maybe
up.
you need another tool.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with you, but maybe you need something else to help you get to that point. And it took a lot of conversations with a lot of people. It literally took somebody saying, oh, I've had bariatric surgery and we are the same. This is for you. This is not my 600-pound life. This is built for you.
For you, yeah.
But if we don't have these conversations, you don't know.
Nobody knows, yeah.
Nobody knows. And
it's so important to share your story.
Well, because you even argued with the person that had your friend that had it.
I did. Oh, yeah.
Because you told her that it wasn't for people y'all's
I did.
size because you guys were the same, and she was like, "Well, I mean, it must have been because I had it."
Well, literally, yeah. I remember I messaged her on Instagram, and I was like, "Girl, what are you doing? Because I need to do this too. Like, what's the diet? What's the cleanse? What's the whatever?" And she was like, "Oh, I had bariatric surgery," and I literally had to Google what bariatric surgery meant.
I think we all did. Did we? I did.
Right? Because
Everybody does.
Because
I
it's.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I Googled it and I was like, I'm sorry, isn't that for my 600-pound life? And she's like, oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's for us. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, my.
But the most important question is after that, did you apologize to Grady for being so mean to him?
Never. No. Grady knows there is no I'm sorry in our house that comes from this. No. I am always right.
I stand with you, Grady. It's cool, man. I got you. Don't worry about it.
You're dead to me.
It was down to 2.
Down to 2. So this is one of the last pictures, I think, before I really kind of, So we were bulldozing our family cabins, and my dad wanted a picture in front of it, and I remember we took it, and on the side-by-side, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm bigger than my dad. And my dad's not a big man. He's very average, right? Like, you guys have met him. There's nothing, he's just an average man. And after this picture, it was like, ooh, something is off. That was a men's North Face jacket, not a women's, because I couldn't fit into a women's anymore. Those were
But
like.
that's just because you're tall. I think that's not a weight issue. That's just you're tall.
I couldn't
Right?
fit into a woman's 2X at my highest.
Yeah.
It was a weight thing for me.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not that it was like a bad thing, but I just realized, okay, something is very off. And after this picture, I started to experience health issues. I had sleep apnea. I was pre-diabetic, right? All of these things kept coming up every time I went to my doctor. And I just thought, okay, like, no matter what diet, no matter what fad, no matter whatever I tried, I'd lost weight, but then I gained it back. And it was just not working. I just felt like a hamster on a wheel. Yeah. And I was over it. So, yeah, that conversation with Veronica changed it all.
So you had bariatric surgery.
Yeah. Yep. In July 2019, I had bariatric surgery. Yeah. And the rest is history. Well, then Bari Nation.
I was going to say, how did it change your life?
Yeah. So after I had bariatric surgery, I realized that my binder was not adequate to get me through what I needed to get through. And COVID happened, the pandemic kind of happened, and I just thought I need people who understand what I'm going through. And I had no support through my surgical center. It just, nothing was
It's
going.
not really there. I mean, they have their meetings, but.
Yep. And my professional background is in education and online education, so I understood Zoom. And I had made some connections with some experts in the community, and I thought, what if I invited like a dietitian or a therapist on to Zoom to just interact with people, to just hang out?
Yeah.
So I started calling them virtual bariatric meetups. Very, like, no big deal. And this person kept trying to come into my Zoom, whose name was Jason. And I was like, oh, Russian troll. Russian troll.
Man.
Jason is a Russian troll. Men do not have surgery.
There's a lot of Russians named Jason, by the way. It's very common.
In case you didn't know.
Russian title.
Right? A lot. So I kept kicking poor Jason out of our Zooms because I thought he was a Russian troll. But Jason continued to come back, so I let him into the Zoom.
Here I am 2 weeks post-op. I don't know anything about anything, and I was given the same biter and was like, hey, kick rocks, take it easy. Your check cleared, so you're good. And so I'm not knowing anything about anything. And so I'm like, oh, well, I guess this is a very welcoming community that I'm trying to get into. I was like, I'm just trying to learn. Help me.
No, you're a Russian troll. You
Yep.
cannot learn.
I was, indeed.
You cannot. So I finally let him in, and I remember, it's like, the very first thing that I did when I let him in the room, and I was like, Jason, are you a bariatric patient? Like, I'm going to call this guy out.
Disqualify him.
quick.
Yep,
Yeah.
right, like,
She
nope.
had me in the bag. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, tell me all about it. And I did.
Yeah, and he was like, no, I've had surgery. It was like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, okay, wait, but like bariatric surgery. Like you had like, and he's like, yes, I've had bariatric surgery. Is this okay? And I was like, oh my God, you're a patient. And this bro hung out after the Zoom to like talk and give bits and, you know, just share the experience, what we've all done.
Yeah.
And we connected. It was freakish. And we just had these really deep
That's
conversations.
so cool y'all met like that, though.
Yeah.
Well, and I had a lot of questions during the meetup, so we're talking, and I feel, and you know, honestly, I felt like I dominated a lot of the conversation. So when at the end she was like, "Hey, can you hang out a minute after?" and I'm like, "Oh, I'm in trouble. I don't know what I did." But
I'm going to call you out.
I got called to the principal's office, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Now I don't get to come back. It took me forever to get in. Now I don't get to come back." And it just turned out to be very different conversation. So
It was, I mean, we really connected pretty quick. I mean, he's not a hard guy to like get to know. Let's be fair. But yeah, we just connected instantly. And he kept coming to my meetups. And I was like, oh, cool. So like, he really wants support. Like, we're in this together.
Yeah.
And after one of the VBMs, I had told him that I was a little bit frustrated with the podcasts and the communities that existed at the time because they
Well,
were
hold
lacking
on.
the patient voice.
What podcasts were out back then that you remember?
There were just
Like
very few.
If you searched,
Yeah, there were just very few out there.
Yeah. There
Well,
were not a lot. Well, and I remember a lot of them were from like the provider perspective. They
medical
weren't
side,
from the
yeah.
patient
from the
perspective.
doctor. Oh, I've seen those. Yeah, okay. I
Right?
understand.
And it was like, okay, I mean, it's wonderful that I'm learning about my journey from somebody that provides the surgery.
I've heard those, yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of patient voice. I was missing the patient voice. I wanted to know, like, why am I craving this or why am I thinking this from my own perspective? And it just didn't exist. And Jason told me that he had experience in podcasting. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, maybe we should think about doing one. So we teamed up. We picked a date to record our first podcast on Zoom.
I talked her into picking a date for the podcast because we had 5 meetings in 2 months, and we just taled.
With
and I was like,
notes and pages
Yeah,
of.
I was like, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? This could have been
Bullet
a whole
notes.
episode, and we didn't record it because we just been talking. We've been having meetings. So we get done with that, and I'd tell her, I'd be like, you know, at the end of the day, we're just going to have to press record because that's how this works.
We gotta
like,
start.
Just press record, put it out. We don't even know if anybody's going to listen. If they do, awesome. If they don't, we'll try something else. Like they'll get, you know, we'll find another way to help the community that needed the assistance at the time. So, you know, we just decided to press, well, we thought we pressed record on the first episode.
episode.
And there's one amazing episode that is just in the ether somewhere. It didn't land anywhere.
It's
It wasn't
gone.
recorded, just gone.
Yeah, because I did not hit record.
Nope.
Yeah.
She got all done and she was like, okay, I think we wrapped it up. And then she looked at me and goes, shit. I was like, what happened? She goes, yeah, I didn't press record. I was like, well, looks like we get to do it again.
Yeah. There's a little bit of, and the other thing that's hilarious is if you guys know me, I'm very detail oriented. I have notes, show notes for everything, right? Like everything is to the minute.
Yeah.
This guy has never to this day read any show notes I have ever written. Ever.
How does he do it? What do? You just wing it?
He
Just
wings
wing
it.
I show up roughly 8 minutes before every podcast, and I look who we're doing. I mean, I'll do background on who we're doing to make sure that I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I know who we're talking. Like I know who we're talking to and all those
Yeah.
things. But yeah, when it comes time, I wait about 8 minutes before, and I'll log into the Zoom and I get ready and I just go.
Yep.
Because honestly, if I was to read the show notes and go through them and do that, it would be like I was reading the teleprompter, and I would be like, "Hello, welcome to Bari Nation. I'm so glad that you're here today, so we can talk about bariatric surgery." And I just, you know, she had no idea how somebody's brain could work that way. And so she was like, no, I put 2 hours into these notes. You will read them. You will. And I told her, I was like, okay, here's the thing. Give me 3 episodes. Let me do 3 episodes my way. And if you don't like what we've got going on, trash the episodes. Well, I was like, you can redo them yourself. I will help you from behind the scenes. I don't have to be involved on camera, anything. I was like, just let me try it my way. So we did one, and she was very skeptical. But she didn't know how I did it. But she was like, okay, I'm going to give you one more shot. Let's see if you can do it again. I did it again. Then the 3rd time, she was like, we'll keep going for now. She's like, but if this gets out of hand, she's like, I'm going to cut you out. I was like, all right, I understand. Like, I get it. So, but it actually, it's to this day, it's worked out amazingly. I've read one set of show notes, and that was before we did Dr. Ortiz. I did a little background, just a little bit. I skimmed through them, and was still able to pull it off. But yeah, it just comes so organically to me to talk to people in that way that I don't have to go through those types of things, and I'm just lucky like that, I guess.
Well, and I think what makes our conversation so powerful is that they are just organic conversations. It is just the 3 of us, the 2 of us, right, talking about what we are experiencing in the moment or what we've reflected on. And I remember, right, like the 16th episode, we interviewed you.
On the 16th episode.
Yes.
We came on.
We interviewed Natalie, and I called Natalie the night or 2 nights before our episode with you.
It was the night before.
And we talked for 3 hours.
We talked for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, we need to shut up. Like, we're talking about everything that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Like, we got to go. Like, but it was that instant connection that I could just talk about my story with April on the phone and didn't even think twice about it.
Well, and again, we always say this, but this is the power of telling our story. And even if we start telling our stories to ourselves, it's where we need to start.
Yeah.
Because if we don't own our own story, we can't share it with the world.
Yeah, and it just flows. If you just like open it, you're going.
Well, I have a recipe, right? I have found some type of success. And there's lots of different ingredients to my recipe. If I'm not sharing my story with the world, somebody might be missing that ingredient that I have that they need for their own recipe.
That's right.
And we all understand that it's very difficult to share this very intimate story because we are opening ourselves up to ridicule and shame and trolls and you fill in the blank, right? Like we know what is on the other side of sharing our story.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is that you get to help someone with that ingredient that they have been missing to live the life that they know they were destined to live.
Yeah.
And that's actually how we all 3 met. Jason was on stories on Instagram, and I had just listened, I was on stories talking about how I had just listened to one of the podcast episodes. I think it was with Wendy Rawlings. And I was 8 weeks post-op. Wow. And I remember listening to this podcast, and Jason said something that just hit me. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, Jason drops truth bombs all the time.
He cusses. He even cusses. I've heard him.
Oh, yeah. Cusses
Probably
sometimes.
Me. Yeah.
But he dropped one of those truth bombs, and it really hit me. And so I posted on my stories, and I just said, this really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And then Jason messaged me from the previous, we are Barry Nation now. We were East to West, WLS. He messaged me, and we had this amazing conversation about that exact topic. And it was as simple as posting a podcast, and then it was simple as me making that connection and starting that conversation. And that's why we do what
totally
we do.
changed Barry Nation, I think, once.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
she just took you to a whole nother level because the whole.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was like the missing piece. So it's like that you need something else in your recipe, and when you find that ingredient, it's like, oh, this is like chef's kiss. This is what we need. And it was just the safe place to like talk about what we were going through.
She's the
I'm
magical.
the one.
Yeah.
Yes, she's the one.
Tell everybody.
She's the unicorn.
Well, and she was actually one of the first people to reach out and leave such a detailed, thought out, like a serious,
Yeah.
connected, like the podcast connected in such a way because
Had a
you know,
burden.
yeah,
Had a burden.
because April and I have put out like 15 episodes at that point. You don't really get a lot of feedback, so you don't really know where your hits and misses are. So
Yeah.
you talk about it, and you're like, well, I hope somebody hears it, and I hope it helps somebody. If we can help one person, we've all said that in our post-op. If we can just help one person, but that was the one connection that hit the hardest at that at the time to let us know that we really were doing something that something special that people needed.
Yeah.
So we took that from that point, and when we invited her in, everything from that point, like Cece said, it really did change.
It changed the whole
Like
face.
butter. Just
Very nice.
happened. Smooth.
Something like that. We'll have to later.
I'm a foodie, can you tell?
Right. But it just goes back to the power of if you can find a community, if you can find that safe place to really be authentically yourself and just not be afraid to kind of share the parts of your story that maybe you're worried about. There's so much growth. Like we've really started to say, like the struggle is in the story, or our story is in the struggle.
Yep.
It's that struggle, it's that moment that we're really trying to get through, it's that pause, it's that like, ooh, pick it, whatever it is for us. If we can get through that struggle, that is where the story of our life lives. And people want to hear stories. We are built to hear stories, and we're built to tell stories. And we understand that it is terrifying to share a story so publicly. But if we can get to the point where we own our own story, we kind of like take control of our life, right? Like that's the moment where it's like, no, this is mine. This isn't anybody else's. Nobody can dictate this to me. This is mine, and no one can take it away from me. And it's a very powerful place to live in.
Well, and as we've all seen on
Let me see that
Instagram
thing.
too, it's very
Just
easy
click
to
and
say,
get to that,
to be present and be on stories and be on things when things are going well. Everybody wants to be there when when everything's going great. It's the hardest times, and the times that you are struggling the most, and the things that you go through. That's the courage is in that time to stand up and say, oh, hey, I'm struggling. I'm really having a hard time. It's not going well for me. I need to reach out to, the community, because the community is where the treatment lies. Reaching out to the other people. I mean, that's legitimately what's going to.
Jason, she killed it. You can't be serious when they're looking at that picture.
I mean, I'm a toddler. Everybody that has listened to 5 minutes of me knows I'm a giant toddler anyway. I just look like it in the picture now. It all fits. It all comes full circle. But
It does.
yeah, I mean, but honestly, it's super easy to be present when you're having an easy time. But standing up and actually telling people when you're having a hard time and making those connections lets other people know that it's okay to struggle, and that there is help out there, and that there is a better day with people to bring you along.
And every time you tell your story, it gets easier.
Yes.
Every single time you accept it more and more and more.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just one more person. Just tell one more person, one
To
more
help,
time.
help one person. Yeah. I love that. So this is Natalie. Where are you at, Natalie?
I was at work. We did a lot of shows and tabling around, and I hated having my picture taken. This was around my highest weight. I was 403 pounds. And my boss would take photos for our company to show that, we went to these events, and I was always her subject, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. Because it would actually show what I looked like, right? We've all taken the selfies, we've all been on Snapchat, we all have Facetune and all that stuff, and this was the real me, and didn't really like my picture being taken. But this was really me. This was actually probably 8 months before I decided to have bariatric surgery. So I was still probably creeping up to my highest weight.
So when was your moment of, I'm done, I can't,
Yeah, so my grandma in the first slide of me, she had passed away in June of 2020. And my cousin and I were looking through photos, making storyboards, and just kind of reminiscing about her life. And I realized, wow, she did a lot of really cool things. She went all over the place. And I couldn't do that where I was. I mean, if I traveled anywhere, I was sitting at the pool because that's what I could do. And so I, started kind of that train of thought of, okay, I need to start doing something. And my mom had found my surgeon, Dr. Ariel Ortiz. He's in Tijuana, Mexico. And she found his website and said, you don't have to do anything, but I found this surgeon and I think he could really help you.
The
There you
table
go.
slide. The table slide.
Just a little like, here you go, and back away. Because it was a point of contention for a long time. And so I went down the rabbit hole. I looked into him, and something just felt right. I think we all kind of have that moment where it's like, okay, this is it. Like, I should do this. So the next day I called my surgeon's office, and I said, okay, this all sounds great, but I got to talk to him. I need to talk to him. Because those who don't know, I've had 2 other previous surgeries. I had the lap band, and then I also had a plication surgery, which is kind of like a pseudo sleeve is what I call it. So I said, okay, this is the 3rd time. I need to talk to the surgeon because I don't know. I don't know if I trust you. And he called me. The actual surgeon called me. And he let me word vomit my story to him for 30 minutes.
Word vomit, I've never heard that before.
Oh, it was just
You've heard it?
out. Like there was no rhyme or reason. It just came out. And all he said was, we can take care of that. That's all I needed. I said, okay. Let's put my $500 deposit down the next morning. Had a little food funeral, and then the next day I was on my pre-op diet.
Yeah, you did it. Did you, so you've lost, like, how much have you lost now?
I lost 145 pounds.
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. But now you got to get to 150, right? You have to be an even.
We're pushing. I know. It's game time.
The struggle is real.
Struggle's real. But no,
Gotta
yeah.
get that even number. What about you, Jason?
Let's see, I'm at 191 pounds lost. So the picture of me in the giant chair.
191 pounds. Well, see, that's what I'm seeing. You got to do 200. You can't. How can you?
We'll get there.
That's
Amen.
You gotta,
That's true. I'm gonna work. Yeah. So
it's good to get there.
I was at 468 pounds here at my heaviest. As you can see, my legs looked horrible. My ankles were swollen. My whole body was just. I hurt every day. Took ibuprofen to get out of bed. All the joint pain in the world, inflammation everywhere. My struggle point came when I was on a college tour with my son. It was supposed to be one of the happiest times, taking my son around, trying to figure out if he wanted to go to the sprawling campus of UCF, the University of Central Florida. If you have not been there, it is very large. So I'm 468 pounds. I'm good to walk. At this point, I'm good to walk 50 feet without need to break. And the campus was well over 3 miles, all the places. And there was no carts. It was on foot. So we were with our best friends and their daughter, their daughter and our son have grown up together they're like 6 months apart. So everything they've done through life, they've done together. So we were on the tour, and I was, putting my brave face on, was trying to make it. We made it from where we had to park to probably not even, there was no way we made it half a mile before I had to take my first break. And I would venture to guess we walked about 5 minutes, and I took about a 15-minute break to catch my breath to be able to not feel like I was going to pass out. Probably 2 buildings in and about 10 breaks later, I realized I was not going to be able to continue said trip because I legitimately thought I was about to either have a heart attack or pass out, and at that point I was cool with either one. Because, I was like, at least that way someone will come carry me to where I need to be. It'll have to be a lot of them, but they'll have to come carry me. So I legitimately, we found an air-conditioned building, and I let them go. And I had to sit on the couch, seeing spots and not being able to catch my breath until they finally completed the tour and could come back around. But it took about an hour before I felt like I was good again to be able to get up and walk. At that point in time, I felt horrible not only as a person but as a parent, because that was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my son's life, and I could not complete a simple task for him that everyone else was able to do. So I felt extremely selfish for the fact that I had allowed this to happen, because I continued to eat, just ridiculous amounts of food. I wasn't even trying at that point to stop anything. I would argue that I needed all the food that I was eating so that I could be full, because why would I go out to eat and pay for food if I wasn't going to be full when I'm done? So yeah, the giant toddler thing has carried all the way through, because I was pitching fits like a 5-year-old at that point. A very large 5-year-old, but a 5-year-old. And it just got to a point where, at that day I realized that I was no longer going to continue to let this control my life in such a way, because I took pride in being a father to a point that I was over the moon when I found out that we were pregnant with my son. I had a daughter at that point. My daughter was amazing. I loved it. But just bringing another, being a dad was the best thing to me. So when it got to a point where I was unable to complete that task, my whole world came crashing down. So, it was a point that I profusely apologized to my son. And of course, your kids, unconditional love, they don't care. It's okay, Dad, as long as you're good, I'm good. But I wasn't taking that for an answer, because there was just no way that he could be good with that, given the fact of what happened. So it was at that point, it had been brought up to me once in the past not by my primary care physician, who I knew very well. She sent me to a cardiologist for a referral. And I walked in the door, and he looked at my chart, never said hi, nothing, my name is doctor, whatever. He didn't say, he looked at my chart, read to me, looked up at me and said, have you ever considered bariatric surgery? And I was like, no, but I'm done with you. And I got up and walked out. And I'm playing like I'm not the biggest person in the hospital at that point. Oh, you me? Why would you ever suggest such a thing to me? How dare you? So, it was ridiculous at that point for me to even, why was I shocked, first off? But yeah, but I'm like, you don't
Wait a minute. Whose voice was that? That was like Yoda, Cookie Monster.
Yes.
It was like several in one.
All of the above, yes.
I'm a very all the above guy. So yeah, but it got to a point where, I took it back to my actual primary care doctor, and I told her, I was like, can you believe the cardiologist, actually recommended that I do bariatric surgery? And she looked at me and she goes, you're a good candidate for it. And I was like, oh, am I? I was shocked. But at the same time, she knew me. She knew my chart. She had been with me for years enough to know the ins and outs of everything. So it came from her a little differently. So that's when I just decided, I knew at that point that if that was the case, then I needed to move, start making moves and move through it that way. So
It's a brutal reality when you have to face it, right? But at the same time, it's kind of like there's so many moments of that commitment, I guess, right? That commitment stage along our journey. I have to commit before surgery, and then I have to commit after surgery. It's like this constant cycle of commitment. But every time that we come up to that moment of commitment, we have an opportunity to set a different path or course for our life. And it takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of love to make that commitment for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we realize, it's like that quote, and I don't know who said it, but, right, we have to do it alone, we can't do it alone. I can only do this work by myself. I can only make this decision by myself. But knowing that I need the support of a community, I need the support of others. I need the education, the knowledge to get through it. It's a very humbling experience, right? I have to acknowledge that I need help. I have to do it alone, but yet I can't do it alone. And to know that we all of us have created this community where these conversations can exist, these moments can exist, these experiences can exist. It solidifies our humanity. Right? And it says we're not alone. There's nothing wrong with us. We want to live a different life, and we're going to do whatever it takes to find it. Yeah. That's strength, that's grit, that's humility, that's all of those things wrapped up in the human experience. And to know that we can have that moment with people who empathize is just so powerful. It lets us know we can do it. We can do it.
Well, thank you, Bari Nation, for coming on here. I really just appreciate all three of y'all. I think I just love Natalie and her, you know, and what she's done for Bari Nation over the years. And I just, I'm so glad y'all are here. We're going to take like a 15-minute intermission so y'all can go on a potty break, get your drink, get you some snacks, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks you.
Thank you, Bari Nation. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Kind of trailing off there.
Is it on?
Hey, if you guys are getting drinks, keep getting drinks. Don't want to stop you. We'll get started here in just a
April,
second.
get your butt up here, April.
Please. She meant
You're
please.
tardy. Welcome back, guys. Sorry. So our second half is about sharing your story, and before we get started, I'd like Doug. If y'all listen to my podcast, he's my husband. He's 6'2", 220. I always say that.
She only says that because she likes Keanu Reeves more than me, and he's 6'2", 220. That's a fact.
No. But so Doug's going to talk about sharing your story. So he has his.
So it's going to be a little weird for me because I'm normally used to standing up in front of people, so I'll try not to look kind of fidgety and weird while I'm up here sitting down. My story that I'm going to tell you guys is going to be a lot different than many of your guys' stories. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to tell you the importance of sharing your story, right, and why it makes a difference. And and they talked about it actually a lot in the first part of the podcast. So I've been in the military for 24 years. I did my first tour to Iraq in 2004. I've done 4 altogether. I did 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan. And on my first tour, I'm just kind of skipping over like some of the rest of my career because it doesn't really matter, right? But,
It matters. That's your story.
yeah,
FYI.
yeah.
Just gonna.
But so on my first tour, I was recently married to my now ex-wife, thankfully. We were stationed in a place called Ramadi in Iraq. I was in Ramadi and Fallujah for most of that time. And I was blown up at least 35 times on my first tour. Back then, traumatic brain injury and concussions and stuff like that, they weren't a thing, right? It wasn't a few years later that really the NFL brought it to the attention of the military. It wasn't the other way around. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, people get brain damage from being blown up many, many times? Oh, gosh. So for me, it was, I got blown up, and they're like, hey, are you good to go? I'm like, give me like an hour, and I'll drink some water, and I'll go back to work. And so that was kind of just the way we went through missions. Well, what I didn't realize was happening over this time was that I was getting concussion after concussion after concussion. I was knocked out many times. I was getting brain damage. And as a result of that, and a result of the traumatic brain injuries that I received, I didn't even realize that I was starting to lose control of my hormones, my body, my regular physiological functions. And it's no different than, somebody who takes or abuses anabolic steroids and the fluctuations that they have afterwards. No different than some people, once they reach a certain level of obesity, like that we've talked about earlier, right? Your hormones start to flare out of control, and it causes other problems in your life. Well, so after this tour, I come back, and of course, I never sought help because I never thought there was really anything wrong with me. I thought that, it was perfectly normal that I would forget what I was talking about before I finished the sentence that I was talking about. I don't know why I thought that was normal. I think it was really more, I didn't feel comfortable asking anybody for help. And I was in a leadership position, so I always felt like I had to continue being in that position, that I felt like people were counting on me for things. Well, so my next tour was about 7 months later, and also in Iraq. It was in Baghdad and Sadr City area. And now during this one, it was a little bit different, because by now, my mind wasn't really working the way it should. My marriage was kind of starting to fall apart, and some of that was probably directly related to my inability to communicate with my spouse. But what I also didn't know was that it was also due to my wife's inability to remain faithful to me. And so...
Bazinga.
Yeah.
And there's...
But I didn't know that yet. Actually, the way I found that out was during my tour. A very good friend of mine was killed on the same tour. And when I read his obituary, it said that he was survived by his fiancée. and his fiance was my wife. And so, yeah, so, you know, so now on top of having, yeah. So now on top of having this uncontrollable hormone imbalance and brain damage, I started to suffer from severe depression. They excused me from going on mission for a little while because they realized that I wasn't in a very good mental state. And I literally, like, I think I slept on my floor for like 2 days. And these are like really uncomfortable, like metal connexes converted into sleeping quarters, you know, so it wasn't really that comfortable. And, you know, and so that was, you know, and eventually I kind of got back into the swing of things. And for me, my escape was work and overwork. And I became an absolute workaholic. And I dedicated every single minute of my life to working. And because that was the only thing that could keep my mind off of the depression that I was falling into. When I came back after this tour, I probably spent about 2 years where I was, I mean, I didn't go to meetings, so I don't know if I was an alcoholic, but I was definitely drunk for a significant portion of it. And it was just, you know, every day I would come home and like I really had no desire to do anything. And I was dying inside. And I would go home, I would drink, and I would go to sleep, just waiting for the next day to come so that I could go to work. That was all I cared about, was because that was the only thing that kept me going. And then, so I strung my marriage on for a couple of years because for some reason in my head, I assumed that maybe we could reconcile things. I just thought, I kept blaming myself. I thought that I was a failure as a husband and that I was just a crappy human being, and that was why my marriage failed. And so that's really why I strung it on, because I was a victim, right? And that's gonna come back later, you know, as I finish what I'm saying here. But so, you know, these couple of years go by, and then finally it was March 29th of 2009. I decided that I was going to commit suicide, and I was probably going to commit a murder-suicide, maybe not, I don't know. But anyways, I decided I was going to end my life that day. And, you know, so I put a gun to my head, and so I didn't pull the trigger, but in my mind, I did, right? And for me, like a lot of you guys talk about what was your aha moment that made you decide to get your surgery, right? So for me, that was the aha moment. Finally, 2009, you know, 5 years after that I'd been suffering, that I decided to get help. And in a split second, you know how when people talk about like they saw their life flash before their eyes, like I literally did. And it was a very interesting moment in my life because, and I'm not going to get into religion or anything like that, but I felt like something changed, like it was something that I'd never experienced before in my life, and I can't explain it to this day. And literally in a second, like with pressure on the trigger to this weapon, I saw one image of a life where I died instantly, and that was it. I did nothing after that. I didn't think about what people were going to feel like afterwards or anything like that. Literally, it was just the end of my life, right? And in the other part of it, in the next second, if you will, I saw this flash of images come through my mind of all the things that I'd wanted to do in life, all the things I could have done in life, all the things that I was like, you know what, why haven't I done these things in life? And it was at that moment that I realized that I was making myself a victim, that I was continuing to be a victim, right? And now don't get me wrong, some of it was uncontrollable because I could not physically control the production of hormones in my body. And so, I was all over the place. I had no idea what was going on. And so literally the next day, I went and bought a house. I signed up for school. I basically went on what all guys do when they go in like a midlife crisis sort of thing. I think I was going to buy a motorcycle. I didn't do that. But no, what it was I sat down. I went in my room and I sat down and I wrote in a book and I said all the things that I wanted to do in my life. And I thought about it and I was like, what was holding me back? And I realized a lot of it in that case was honestly part of it was even just my relationship to my ex-wife. But that was just a small piece of what was holding me back and what was keeping me from doing greater things. Well, I never told anybody about this at that time. Right? Nobody knew anything was going on. Nobody knew I had any issues at all. I regularly talked to my commanding officers, the leadership in my unit and stuff like that, and nobody knew a thing. Nobody, even to this day, most of them don't know that I was going through this period of my life. And I mean, leading up to my, the day that I was going to kill myself, I literally thought about it every single day. There wasn't a day that went by where I didn't think about driving my car into oncoming traffic or something to that effect. And so over the next couple of years, I started to go through this self-healing process where I would start to try and find things that were challenging to me, but that were also opening up a different part of my personality. So I was basically rediscovering who I was and who I could be. At that time, I weighed about 160 pounds, and so I was actually really, really skinny, probably anorexic level skinny when I was growing up. And somebody taught me how to work out, and I gained 50 pounds in about a year and a half. And I know most people wouldn't like that, but I worked for it, right? And that was just one thing, right? And so I quit smoking. I had been smoking since I was 15 years old. I didn't quit drinking, but I quit drinking myself to sleep. I did, like I said, I signed up for college. I started going to school because I was trying to better myself. But still, I still hadn't beat it, right? It was still a significant part of me, and I could realize that. And I didn't know what that missing piece was, that missing ingredient, like you were talking about earlier. I hadn't found it. And over the next couple of years, still actually had more bad things happen. November 5th of 2009, I was at the shooting at Fort Hood. I lost 3 soldiers in my platoon. We lost 14 soldiers in my battalion. There were 40 across the entire post that were wounded. And then on my next tour, which was a couple months after that, I got blown up a few more times and lost a few more friends. And so it was just one thing after the other. And I still could not figure out what was wrong with me deep down inside. Right? I had been working on becoming a victim, but in a way I still was. There was something wrong with me, and I couldn't figure it out. Right? Well, in 2012, I had an opportunity to go to a course. It's called the Master Resilience Trainer course. And it's a very weird course for Army stuff because it has nothing to do with Army stuff. Right? There's no PT, you don't do physical training, right? You don't do any of that. You don't have a regimented time schedule. You don't have instructors come up and be like, hi, my name is so-and-so, and today I'm going to be giving you a 15-minute block of instruction. That's how every military course is, and they're boring, and they're awful. This was taught by a bunch of college professors from the University of Pennsylvania. And it was specifically talking to people about skills to cope with everyday life. And it was a 2-week course. It was 8 hours a day, whatever. But anyways, when I was in it, I started to realize, I was like, man, a lot of these things are the things that I've been using over the last couple of years to cope with the trauma and the depression that I've been going through. And when I was in that course, to some random stranger that I don't even know who they are, I don't remember it even today, there was one of the exercises we were going to, and I told them, I kind of brushed the surface of the things that I'd gone through. And I started crying in this course. And it wasn't supposed to be, you weren't supposed to be in this course crying, This was group learning session, but it actually turned out somebody else in the same group that I was with had done something similar. And, and they talked about it a little bit. Well, so over the course, every time we, pick up one of these new skills, we have these little breakout sessions, and we'll go and we'll talk about them and stuff like that, and then we kind of work through it. And then the next week, you get up and you instruct in front of everybody, what the skill is. And then the goal is that you're supposed to bring it back and teach it to people. And so, so I went back, and at this point, I was in Missouri. and I was teaching new soldiers coming into the military. I was what's called an AIT platoon sergeant, specifically for they're like heavy equipment operators, like people driving bulldozers and hydraulic excavators, stuff like that, right? And I had them for 9 weeks, and I got to choose the training that I did on the weekends. So it was a long, so Monday through Friday was like, let's see, I got there at 4 in the morning, and I usually left at about 9 o'clock at night. That was my typical day, right? So it was a 17-hour day from Monday to Friday. Saturdays were about 8 to noon on average, and then Sundays, I actually had Sundays off. And so on those Saturdays, though, I made it my personal goal that I was going to teach them this one course, specifically about resilience and coping skills. And when I first did, the two main things that I would talk about were goal setting and it was energy management, right? And so with energy management, it's talking about like focusing your energy towards very specific things, not necessarily just, not like necessarily like meditating or anything like that. And then with goal setting, the reason I chose goal setting was because that was one of the things that picked me up out of my depression. Well, when I started giving this class, I would talk about my personal experiences and what I had gone through. And every time I did, I would cry. I would tell a little bit more. I would tell something, just like you said, every time. I would tell something more than what I had told before. And I hadn't even told my family yet. All right? But I would tell these random people that I was only going to know for like 9 weeks of their life, right? And I would tell them everything that happened. Well, after second or third time I had done it, every time these soldiers finished their 9-week course, they would write an anonymous letter to my superiors telling them, just about the course in general. And it's also a good way to air dirty laundry because there are just as many bad people in the Army as there are anywhere else, okay? And, but so my commander, he brings me into his office one day and he had got a letter and he said, Sergeant Smith, I want to talk to you. He says, one of your soldiers wrote, he said, I don't remember exactly what it said, but he said, Sergeant Smith literally saved my life. He said, while I was here, I found out that my wife had had an affair and that she was going to have a child that wasn't mine, that I was really excited to come home and do it. And she left me and she took everything I have. And I was going to kill myself when I went home because I had nothing left. And he said that, and the way he worded it was, he had said that he had a plan. He had an idea of how he was going to do it. It was very laid out. And he said that just from me talking to him that one time, it made the difference. He said that it gave him enough hope to realize that, he could still go on, that he could do something else. He knew it would be a dark road, and he put this in there. He said that I knew it would be a dark road, and maybe that won't be the end all. Maybe I'll need something further down the line. But he said, for right now, I know for a fact that Sergeant Smith saved my life. And, and that right there was, after I read that letter, I would go out of my way to try to tell more about what happened to me in the right place, because obviously somebody needs to be there to listen to you in the first place, and sometimes people just don't want to listen. But sharing it over and over again, it's really helped, not just me. Well, okay, I'll get back to me because that's pretty important too. Actually, that's probably the most important part. But knowing that I saved that one person's life, to me, is immeasurable. You can never put a value on that. And for every single one of you, I mean, if you look at the statistics of, I think we were talking about statistics of people that are bariatric patients who are sexually abused or physically abused as
73%.
children. 73? That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And it's unfortunate, and it's a tragedy, right? And maybe it doesn't apply to everybody in here, that's fine. But there's something else that applies to you, to each and every single one of you, right? And it's something that you keep deep inside of you, and you're afraid to share it, and you don't want to talk to other people because it hurts. It's hard to. But just like you were saying earlier up here, the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you will be, and eventually you learn to accept it. And what happened is over the years, I learned to accept it. And I learned to accept the things I did good. I learned to accept those things that I did wrong. But I began to own it eventually as a person. And at some point, I finally beat it. And I did not feel like I was a victim anymore. And I had escaped, I broke those chains, so to speak. Right, so it didn't just save somebody else's life. Like, it literally saved my own life just from talking about it over and over and over again. Yeah. And so, anyways, that's, I think I might have missed out a part or two, but that's
Well,
about it.
I mean, as I'm listening to your story, it strikes me. You've had some very traumatic experiences that I will never have, hopefully never have. Truly, right? But what is the common theme for all of us is that the power of our story is not to save others, but it's to save ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we can own our story for ourselves, if we can get comfortable sharing our story with ourselves, it doesn't become this scary thing anymore. And when we have the ability to share it publicly, but anonymously, we practice. And we know that, like, you know, the adage, practice makes perfect, but perfect is not a thing, right? Practice makes known. So the more that you share your story publicly, even with people that you don't, like Instagram, like 99% of us met on Instagram, right?
Yeah, we post, yeah.
We anonymous, right?
They don't really know us.
It's the ether. You're literally posting a picture, like my husband's always like, I'm sorry, what are you sharing with who? I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to share it out there and go, somebody's going to see it, right?
Yeah.
But it's the power of anonymity that exists in these pockets. But it's the it's the ability to be private yet public. And what you're talking about is that I shared the most vulnerable moment of my life with a total freaking stranger in a class that they signed up with, and they did not want to be here, and yet I'm crying to them about something that was very traumatic to me. Yeah. But for some reason, that's safer than going to the people that we actually love.
Yeah, we were talking about this beforehand, and I forgot to mention that. I still haven't actually told my parents every single thing. I've probably told you guys more than I've told my parents. I think my parents know at one point I was depressed and suicidal. Ends there. They don't know anything else. But also too, I didn't want to worry my mom because, when you're like deployed and mom's worried about you, had to.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're literally like your life is on the line, right? Mm-hmm. So, I would like to know this, like just a quick show. Okay, this is the teacher in me. Okay, quick show of hands, class. Just how many of you have shared your story? Like legit publicly. So I have a public Instagram, I have a public Facebook, and I have shared my story. Show of hands. Okay, it's like 20 people. Okay. How many of you have shared your story anonymously? Anonymously. Okay. Okay. How many of you have shared your story with people you consider your family?
And how many of you don't want to share your story? You don't want to, you're not ready yet. It's okay.
Right? Oh, can you do both? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Right? And it's this worry, it's this fear, it's this sense of being judged.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of things that come with this because our story is so personal to us.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that we worry that if I share my story fully or publicly, people won't like me for me. Mm-hmm. People will judge me for being who I am. So I need to change the narrative. I need to change the story. I need to filter it. I need to XYZ. Mm-hmm. And the risk that we run with that is that our story actually doesn't serve us anymore. So now my story becomes a part of my problem and not a part of my solution. Mm-hmm. And our story is our solution. Our story is our salvation. Yeah. Our story is our life. And if we're ready to embrace our life, we need to embrace our story. Mm-hmm. And the only person who really needs to know our story is us. And if we can't tell our story to ourselves, we can't find that place that we want to go to. We can't cross the bridge. We can't build the bridge. We can't, whatever metaphor you want to throw out to that. And really what your story is demonstrating is how we can become comfortable and safe and feel secure in sharing our story. And thank goodness there are how many different avenues to do so in a way that is safe. You found a safe way to do it within your peers. Everybody in this room has found a safe way to do it within our peers.
It starts with a post or a picture or
it starts with
telling a friend or talking to somebody.
And I would even go further. I think it even starts before that. It starts with you looking in the mirror going, I'm having bariatric surgery. It starts with a journal. It starts with a letter that you write to yourself and you throw away. It doesn't even start with anybody outside of yourself. Because if you can't write yourself a letter, if you can't write yourself the truth, it's all smoke and mirrors.
And that's part of it too, is the truth part of that. Is we lie to ourselves for a really long time before we actually tell ourselves the truth.
Yeah.
And then that's, just like you said, that's part of, for me, those couple of years.
And we still keep lying to ourselves.
Lying to myself about some whatever fantasy, I don't even know what you want to call it, that I thought was going to happen, and it never did. And that made it worse, and so it's, you got to accept the truth and tell yourself the truth, but be gentle.
Well, we talk about this all the time on our podcast and in Bari Nation. The bariatric journey, for me, what I have come to understand about my journey, and probably about your own, is that it's a journey of trust. When can I trust myself? When can I listen to myself and say, nope, that is correct. That is my truth. And then when can I learn to not trust myself? When am I doing something that's not truly aligned to my goals? When am I making a decision that's not really exactly what I want to do? It's this journey of trust. And to get to a place where you can trust your story with somebody outside of yourself is quite a gift. And it's hard to get to, and it's emotional, and it's traumatic, and it's all of these things. But our story is where our salvation is, right? Our struggle is where the story, like all of those things are really true. And if we can start here, then we can help others, right? Because like what we always say, you have a recipe. You have a recipe, and you have a recipe, and I have a recipe. And if I can get to the point where I can share my recipe, somebody is going to go, oh, I needed that cardamom. I did not know it was cocoa powder was your secret ingredient, right? Like, I need this one little thing, and oh my gosh, chef's kiss, my recipe is perfect. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing, and if I don't feel comfortable sharing, we're holding back. Somebody is missing something that what we need. And if we start here, then we will get to the point that we can do that. And having those safe environments is what is crucially important to our lifelong success. And you've proven that. You found it.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Thank you, April, for sharing your story with us today. Like, I am blessed, and I mean, all of y'all.
I say this all the time. My story is no different than anyone else's. My story is not more important.
She is like the bariatric Oprah, is she not? she's the Oprah of bariatrics, yes.
I'm very passionate.
Everybody does not get a car.
Yeah, there is
that'd be rad, though.
Or a T-shirt, because I forgot them.
Yeah, you forgot them.
Hey, speaking of that, with the T-shirts, while I'm up here, I am the one who you all should hate for not getting your free T-shirt. However,
I gave him one task. I said, can you please pick him up from Austin?
However, if you didn't make sure that your sizes were correct when you guys checked in, make sure they're correct. I would personally mail all of them.
Personally,
I really will.
going to mail them from the U.S. military to y'all.
Failed.
But thank you, April. Like, I am so excited that you and Jason and Natalie, I don't know, there's Natalie. Oh, and Jason, there's Jason. Thank you. Thank you. thank you for coming on to the BariDIARIES podcast and for sharing your story.
Yeah, I'm honored, and I just hope everybody knows that your story is valuable, your story is important, and I hope that you can get to the point where you can share your story with yourself, because that is where the magic lies. And we're all here to help each other. We're all here to help everybody live the life that they feel is the most authentic for them. And it doesn't matter what your weight is, what your size is, what your shape is, none of that matters. If you can look in the mirror and you recognize yourself, you're metabolically well, mission accomplished. And we start that journey by telling our stories to ourselves.
I love it. Thank you. Everybody, we're going to have a dance floor over here. And the DJ and lights, so get ready. Thank you all. Oh, I'm going to bring Whitney and Nikki back up. They're going to do the giveaways. Where's Nikki and Whitney? There we go. Whitney will...
Mama. Baby. You're right. My name is Tanisha. I'm a licensed bariatric therapist and a bariatric patient. And I wanted to come on here and talk about non-scale victories. My ultimate non-scale victory was to be able to be present in my son's life. And after losing 124 pounds, I think that non-scale victory has been complete. And I'm so thankful for each and every day with him. My second non-scale victory was to be able to go skydiving. I've always had a thrill and a love for the sky. And so BariDIARIES reached out and graciously offered to sponsor my non-scale victory of skydiving. Without bariatrics and without the gracious sponsorship of BariDIARIES, this non-scale victory may have just been an imaginary one.
Non-scale victories, to me, got to be the most important part of the journey. And probably my biggest non-scale victory to date, nothing has ever topped it, is going to Six Flags with my family and getting on a roller coaster for the first time ever. I've always been able to take my sons to theme parks, but I've never been able to get on a ride with them. And to get on the Georgia's Fortune with them was the biggest non-scale victory to date.
I just wanted to jump on and thank BariDIARIES for everything that they're doing for our community. Thank you, BariDIARIES. Thank you.